What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show, and this right here is my Shoei X14. This has been the helmet that I have been wearing and vlogging in for over 2 years now, and I gotta tell you, this thing stinks. So this thing is on the chopping block, and before I replaced it with the X15, I decided I wanted to check out some of the more budget options, because not everybody has $1,000 to throw at a helmet. So, with that in mind, I reached out to the fine folks at Revzilla to send me their brand new budget helmet, the Strada 3, and they sent me their Primo limited edition graphic, which is one of the most wild graphics I have seen on a budget helmet to date. Let's check this thing out. I'm not sure if it's coming through on camera just how shiny this box is. It is extremely shiny. All right, let's pop this open. Helmet care. Ooh, and we actually get a second visor with this one. This one looks like it's a smoked lens. And then in here, we actually get something that you don't get with a Shoei, and that is an actual helmet bag. That's kind of surprising because, again, this helmet right here was $1,000 and it did not come with a helmet bag. And then in here we've got the helmet with more packaging. I would say the packaging on this, if you're ordering one of these online, you really don't have to worry about them getting knocked around. They did a great job packaging this up. Let's pull this thing out of the sack. Now before we get any further into this video, I need to make it very clear that Revzilla has given me this Sedici Primo Strada 3 Carbon Liberty Edition so that I may do a review on it. They do not get to see the video before it goes live, but they did provide me the helmet, and I do get to keep it because that'd be nasty if anybody wanted it after I was riding in it. But anyway, the Sedici Strada 3 Primo Carbon Liberty Edition has way too many names, so for the sake of simplicity, I'm just gonna call it the Primo for the rest of this segment. It's also a bit confusing, and I had to do a deep dive on Revzilla to figure out what's going on with the stickers. So the base model Strada 3 comes with an ECE 2206 sticker, which means that it passes their most recent safety standards. Meanwhile, the Primo comes with a Snell 2020 sticker, but according to Spurge's video over on Revzilla, the helmet actually meets or exceeds the Snell 2025 requirements. It just doesn't have the sticker yet because Snell hasn't released them. There are also very few differences between the helmet's copy language on the site, leading me to conclude that the Primo would likely pass the 2206 ECE test were it not tested for the Snell sticker instead. Don't quote me on that, but that's the vibe I'm getting from my research. The helmet itself has a bunch of different shell sizes too, meaning that you don't end up with an XL shell if you're wearing a small or a medium. That's a nice touch and something that you don't usually see on budget lids because multiple shell sizes cost money. Initial impressions right out of the box are solid, and sitting next to my Shoei X14 that's been around the block a dozen thousand times, I'm not seeing any glaring issues on the table. The biggest difference I can see is the face shield mechanism. The one on the Shoei is much nicer with extra detents allowing you to set the shield in a few different positions, whereas the Primo's got open and closed. But all that's just me blabbing into a mic over some B-roll. Let's get this sucker out onto the street and see how it shakes down.
Well, I have been riding around in this helmet for several hours so far today, and I gotta say, I'm genuinely impressed with what $400 is going to get you if you get yourself the base model Primo Carbon, or even less for the non-carbon Primo. I'll have all the prices on screen, but man alive, does your money go a long way when it comes to helmets nowadays. The best thing I can say about the interior is that it feels genuinely premium. I wasn't expecting it to feel, you know, showy good, because it's a budget helmet, and usually you can get away with some slightly less impressive padding. But honestly, it feels very nice against my face. I'll have to wait to see what the vlog audio sounds like off of my mic, but I will say, going around at highway speeds, this thing is no more or less windy than my RF 1400 was or my X14 is.
Editing spite here, yeah, it sounds great. Back to the vlog.
I'm going about 60 miles an hour right now, so you can hear some more general wind noise going on. But it's really not that bad. And I think the thing that impresses me more so than anything is I have the brow vents all the way open. Usually when I have the brow vents open on a helmet like this, it gets very noisy, and there's usually a very pronounced whistle. It's hard to describe, but usually that goes away when you close the vents, because something about the way that the wind is moving over these holes creates an eddy, and that creates some whistling. That does not happen on this helmet. What that means is, unlike my X14, I can actually ride with this thing open and vlog, because if I'm vlogging with the brow vent open on the X14, it's constantly whistling. Now, is this the quietest helmet in the world? No, it's not. It's still a little bit noisy. There is a seam that I've noticed right at the very tip, right here where my face shield meets the rubber seal. There's a almost imperceptible gap right there. It's not making noise, but it's definitely reducing less sound than it would otherwise do. And, you know, if it was stuck in the rain, that might leak a little bit. Now, it is a very humid day outside today, and I am sweating my face off, shall we say. It is very sweaty inside this helmet, and one thing that I wish that this had is, instead of having the tinted shield, I wish that it came with a pin lock. I think that you can forego that shield, especially since whenever I'm riding in a helmet, I'm riding in flying eyes, right? I'm always wearing sunglasses, and these are the best sunglasses you could possibly get because it doesn't create any pressure points. And by the way, there's a link down in the description below. You can use the code SC10 to get yourself 10% off a pair of flying eyes, which I am literally always riding in. I think instead of having that second shield, you could make the second shield optional and then just add a pin lock. That would be something that I prefer, and probably other sport-oriented track riders would also prefer, because you're usually not putting a tinted shield on to go onto a racetrack. You want a nice clean view. But because we don't have that pin lock and I'm yakking away inside this helmet, I do notice a tendency for the windscreen to fog up just a little bit, and that's a bit of a bummer, and that could be solved by the addition of a pin lock. It's already pin lock ready. You just have to buy that extra. One thing I am noticing, though, is the first time I put this helmet on, I was like, it feels like the field of view is narrower than on my X14, and I sat them side by side to try and determine if it has a narrower field of view. And now that I have it on my head, I've actually put it in the proper position. You don't want it like sitting down so that this nose peak right here is, you know, below your nose. You want it to basically be up here. This is where motorcycle racers wear their helmets, so that they can constantly be looking up and through a corner when they're way down low like this. When you wear this helmet like that, you actually have an enormous vertical field of view, and you can really see where you're going. But I will say, this like nose curtain thing, it does feel a little comically large. But I mean, it's removable, so you could just go ahead and remove it. Let's do a little bit of a speed test here, see what it sounds like. That'll give you an idea of how loud this helmet gets. It doesn't feel like it's significantly louder than my Shoei because the pads are so tight around the neck. It's a really nice tight neck roll, and it creates a nice quiet environment, but I can still hear my exhaust just fine. When I'm cruising down the road, I can hear my thoughts. It's a nice lid. But with all that being said, let's pull this thing back into the garage and give you my final thoughts on the Primo Strada 3 Carbon Liberty Edition. I need to pour myself a nice cup of Liberty, baby.
I actually did this already one time, but I forgot to hit record, so nobody saw it. Anyway, we're back here in the house because it is currently 1,000 degrees outside and 1,250% humidity. You heard me. But I did want to give you my thoughts, my final thoughts on the Sedici Strada 3 Primo Carbon right here, or Primo Strada 3 Carbon. I've actually been testing this out back to back with my X14 just because I want to really make sure I stand by this statement, and I do, that this thing punches way, way above its price point. It is honestly really close, really, really close to being a $700 helmet. I have seriously tried. I've been trying my damnedest to find problems with this helmet, and I did find a couple, but they're nitpicks, and you'll see in a second. So first and foremost, right here at the top of the face shield, there is a very, very small gap here. I mentioned it in the ride, where if it was raining, you might actually get some rain in there. The reason why you don't have that problem on a Shoei is because the mechanism that opens and closes the face shield actually pulls the face shield in to create a really positive seal around the hole for your face. And so it seals really, really hard. You put that on the Strada 3 and game over. You're as close to a Shoei, or you just do it the budget way and you put some more rubber here to make that tighter. It's like, I don't know, 5 cents a rubber. Second thing, I actually looked at a couple of reviews online and people were saying that this helmet doesn't breathe super well. And honestly, I have to disagree. I've been riding this in traffic. I've been riding it around at almost 100 degrees. It's outrageously humid because we've had so many storms here. But I really haven't noticed a breathability problem on it. It's obviously not as breathable as a dual sport helmet, but for a race-ready helmet that's designed for track use, this is pretty goddamn breathable. And I can leave these brow vents open while I'm out riding and vlogging, so I get extra airflow, which I do not get on my Shoei. Another nitpicky problem, the strap that holds the chin in place, it's a little thin. Yeah. It's just a little thin. It's not as thick as the one that's on the Shoei. The Shoei, I think, is probably 50% thicker, but that just kind of goes to show how hard I'm having to look for problems on this helmet. But there is one genuine thing I want to shout out here. The sizing on this is weird. So this is an XL, and I was talking with my guy at Revzilla, and I was like, hey, this is a race fit helmet. I'm kind of borderline. I'm usually a large in most helmets, but I tend to run on that borderline between large and XL. And he recommended that we go with an XL for this helmet. And it fits almost perfectly. It's just a hair loose. But if a helmet is a hair loose from the factory, it's only going to get looser. But I did go into Cycle Gear today and I tried on the large version of this, and it was really tight. So sizing seems like it's running a little bit funny. I definitely want to try getting this in a large and seeing if I can break it in just to see, because this thing looks so good. Going back to things, comparing this to a Shoei, this is Shoei level graphics. I gotta give props where it's due. This honestly looks hand painted in some places. It really does sound hyperbolic, and I understand how it sounds. Oh, you got this free helmet and you love the crap out of it. I did, but I'm also the kind of guy who would sit here and tell you, guys, look, there are issues with this helmet. Aside from the sizing, I'm struggling to find a problem. I really am. I have zero qualms putting this thing on my bonds, going for a rip around a racetrack, or playing around on the street. And honestly, when it comes to helmets, That's the biggest thing I can say for it. That's the best thing I can say. Also, guys, come on. How about a cup of Liberty, baby, right? I mean, the Helldivers references make themselves with this thing. And with that being said, I'm gonna wrap this thing up here. The link to buy this helmet or the closest one to it, because I don't think the Liberty is for sale yet. It is coming. The link is gonna be down in the description. Once this is available, I will have a link down there for you. That will be an affiliate link, so you will be helping out the channel. And with that, guys, I'm gonna call it a day. Catch you guys in the next one. See you later.